Okay, and I think we are live. Let's see if the channel updates. Yeah, we're live. Hi, everyone. We have our third webcast, and today we're hosting CoinDash. We have Alon and Adam from CoinDash. Alon is the CEO of CoinDash. Hi, Alon.
Hey.
Adam.
Hi, everybody.
Hey. Very, very nice to have you here. Quick update about the question that I get about regarding things all the time. The reward contract for Bancor and Audits. It's undergoing auditing, guys. We take security super serious. The second it is confirmed by all the auditors, it's going live, it's going to get charged, and the rewards are going to be distributed. We're obviously going to announce this on all the channels. So thank you for your patience. This is the first time they're going to do the rewards, so it takes a little longer than expected. Okay, back to CoinDash. Alon, do you want to give us a very quick introduction to CoinDash? What it is, what does it do?
Sure. So CoinDash is a portfolio management and social trading platform for crypto assets specifically. So essentially, it gives you the ability to, first of all, benchmark and understand if your investments in crypto assets, in ICOs, and all of this are how they benchmark against the market. That's one of the biggest questions any investor should ask himself. So do I overperform or underperform the market? And obviously, other analysis which will come soon, like risk analysis and all of those things. And so this is essentially to replace all the Excel sheets everyone in the industry is using. And on top of that, we're building a social trading platform, which is essentially the ability to follow a top trader from the industry and copy his investments automatically. And the idea there is, first of all, remove a lot of the friction inexperienced people and newcomers are experiencing, and enable them to effectively use their capital in investing in different assets. And so this is kind of in a few sentences what we're doing. A bit about the team. I've been in the blockchain space for around 5 years now. I'm a developer. I've started as a developer, started contributing to some of the open source projects like the reference client, Bitcoin J, Ethereum J. I've developed my own wallet along the way. And about 1.5 years ago, I started investing my own money in crypto assets, which then it's kind of hit me that this is by far the biggest use case for blockchain technology. It has the ability to do a few things, one of which is create a new asset class, which is the crypto asset. From that, a new class or new type of companies were born. Blockchain companies are fairly different in a lot of aspects than traditional companies. And the idea there and the potential there is to potentially change fundamentally the financial industry, because those are the two building blocks on which this industry is built on. So if you change the very essence of how companies work and how they're represented, then it's a big change.
Awesome. We're having a video problem with Adam, but Adam, do you want to give us a short summary about yourself?
Cool. So what Alan didn't mention is the fact that we have actually been friends for the past, I think, 20 years. So we grew up together.
Dude, I'm trying to hide it. Don't make it public.
You're trying to hide it, exactly. So it's actually a very cool chance for us to do something together. We've always talked about it. Now, a bit about myself. I've been living in China, actually, for the past 8 years. I used to live in Beijing. Now I live in Shanghai. And I'm very involved here in the financial and fintech industry. So I used to work for the biggest investment bank in China called CITIC Securities. And then I moved to Shanghai to open a local office for a company called eToro. That is one of the major players in the world globally in the fintech space. Now my sort of side affair with cryptocurrencies actually started from Alan actually mentioning and introducing Ethereum and blockchain and all these interesting technologies that are being built and happening in the space. And I started to trade, and we sort of started to communicate about different problems that traders in the space are encountering, and the solutions or the ideas that we have around our discussions is the actual result that you're seeing right now in CoinDash.
Cool, thank you so much for that.
And also a few words about the team itself. I mean, most of the teams, you guys know most of the team. We are all kind of blockchain veterans. I mean, I think the average kind of blockchain experience in the team is about 4 or 5 years. So I mean, we first build those products for us because we are all traders, and so yeah, that's about a team and how it's composed.
Who would you say? Okay, who do you say is the target market, and what would be the main one problem that you would pick that CoinDash solves?
So if we started by saying that trading and the creation of new assets are the biggest use case for blockchain technology, then it also becomes the biggest challenge industry-wide. I'm not even talking now on CoinDash. I mean, the industry has to provide good tools in order to scale that up. People coming into the ecosystem now having really, really difficult times. I know personally a lot of people contacting me in order for me to explain them what they should invest in and when. I'm sure you guys, bombarded with those questions as well. And so if this is the biggest use case, there has to be good tools and good platforms for it. So this is by far the biggest things we're trying to solve. Now, how we solve that is a lower level. So our approach is give good tools for traders, create the data, build social trading on top of that, and you can remove a lot of the friction and enable more people to come into the ecosystem. By the way, even inside the blockchain space, so not even talking about newcomers, inside the blockchain space, it's estimated that millions and millions of people today hold crypto assets, but around only like 100,000 people actually actively trade. So even inside the blockchain space, there's a lot of way to grow and bring trading into more people. A lot of again, people I know and people who've been in the industry for years now, they do not actively invest in ICOs or other assets besides the big two, just because they don't have the time to learn about it, to keep track of the market and all of those things. So I mean, they want to, but they simply don't have the tools. And so this is by far the biggest kind of problem we're trying to solve. Give them tools.
Awesome. I have a question that I got in Telegram, and tell us, how long have you been working on CoinDash?
So I think it's around a year now. We started, I think it was October, probably a bit before October 16. Actually, the first thing we did was EtherCamp. We won that hackathon.
And the big prize, right?
Yeah, it was even back then it was a big prize. I mean, but for us it was even in a time before we even knew there's a company here. So us winning that competition, first of all, it gave us some money to start developing and do some other stuff, but it gave us a huge validation because first of all, there were like 70 other projects in the competition. It was 5 weeks long, which meant that the project actually made a good fair amount of work. And then industry leaders were the judges, and I think we got like something like 20% of the judge votes, and just imagine there were 70 projects there. So so for us it was amazing, and it gave us a validation that there's something we're developing, something people actually can relate to and need. And from then we grew up, we raised some seed money and started running towards a product, towards an ICO, creating a community, all of those things.
Very nice. So if you have been working almost a year on this, so this leads me to the next question, and is there a public proof of concept for this?
So it's more than a proof of concept. I mean, anyone can now go to app.coindash.io and see our beta there. So the first version of CoinDash will be kind of two things together. One of which is the portfolio management / dashboard, where you can enter your different Ethereum accounts, and then the dashboard automatically queries the blockchain and displays in a very clear kind of graphs how you perform against the market and all of those things, which is unparalleled to what we're used to now with all the Excel sheets and everything. First of all, it's automated, and second, it really clearly displays your various assets, how they perform, all of those things. So this is the first thing, and this is already live. You can go to app.coindash.io and check it out. On top of that, we'll build something we call copy ICO, which is essentially the ability to follow another trader and copy his ICO investments automatically through a smart contract. And so this will be obviously built on top of the portfolio management and will be released towards the end of the year.
Awesome. I think it's a rare thing usually nowadays to find projects that actually have a working product before they're a project.
Yeah, I mean, we are kind of a developer and engineering company, so we made a lot of efforts. It's not easy with a small team to push as hard for a product when you're trying to raise money and try to create a community. But for us from the get-go, it was a major thing, and so yeah, it wasn't easy, but I mean, I think it's worth it in the end.
Well, I've tried it, and I can tell you it's amazing.
Yeah, I know.
It's sometimes a little annoying.
Let's just say it was very surprising to realize how you really perform against the market.
Yeah, exactly. When you realize that you're underperforming and like, oh.
By the way, a very interesting kind of insight we got is that while Ethereum went up in the past, I don't know, 4 months, most of the people were underperforming the market, which in this case is Ethereum, with all their ICO investments. But once Ethereum went down a bit and stabilized, then some of those ICO investments became more profitable. So it's really interesting to see and understand, where and exactly you're becoming profitable and when. Those insights are incredibly important. I mean, you cannot be a profitable investor if you don't have those insights. And most of the people I know are very excited that their investments did 3x on the dollar, but it's not the relevant kind of question because you're not investing with dollars, you're investing with ethers or whatever other underlying currency. And so the major question is, if I would have put $1,000 in ether or in my portfolio 3 months ago, in which scenario I'm better off? And this is the real question. And so you cannot really, get that insight from Excel sheets. You have to have an automated system.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, well, I have another question for you, and this is from Eric. And Eric asks, could you outline the differences between CoinDash and CoinFolio?
So again, I think the biggest thing is first of all our vision, which is the portfolio management is a part of it, but it's a baseline. It's not the end vision. That's one. The second thing is it all has to do with automation. I mean, you cannot make people enter their investments manually. I don't know if our audience ever looked at their Poloniex account or whatever other platform they're doing trades with. I mean, there are hundreds of them. Even if you're not a day trader, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of trades you're doing. And so it has to be automated. Otherwise, it's not accurate. Otherwise, it simply doesn't work. I mean, I've used all of them. Believe me, I try to use all of them. It's just too much work. That's why I'm still using Excel sheets. I mean, it's just too much work. It has to be automated and because it's automated, it has to be precise. And this is obviously the big kind of technological jump, because making it automated is the difficult part. If you enter that you bought Bitcoin, 5 Bitcoins at $1,000, now Bitcoin is $2,000, it's really easy to calculate even with an Excel sheet. You don't really need an app or whatever. The problem is what happens if you sold and bought Bitcoin in different prices, and that's where the things get complicated. So, in theory, yeah, manually and entering all your trades might work. In the real world, it doesn't really work.
Well, you mentioned Bitcoin. Do you plan to add support for Bitcoin addresses as well?
We already support Bitcoin, just not on a production level. I mean, we did integrations with Bitcoin, with Rootstock, with Poloniex. All of those integrations are live in our, in our internal systems. We just didn't externalize them to the public yet, just because we want to focus on Ethereum right now. Make sure that we're bringing it up to a production-ready level, and obviously then we'll start integrating other blockchains, other services. I think fairly quickly.
Awesome. I didn't know that actually. Okay, who do you consider to be your main competitors?
So, I mean, first of all, the market. I mean, you guys know that. You're also a blockchain company. Keeping pace with the market is by far the biggest kind of challenge as a blockchain company we have, because this market is crazy. I'm not even talking about the pricing, right? I'm talking about the technology and everything involving. I mean, just keeping up with the market is incredibly tough. And so, and by the way, companies who are doing very, very well right now might in a year not exist. I mean, and we already saw it a few times in the past. I mean, look, like three years ago, Counterparty and all of those guys were big. Now nobody remembers them. I mean, just keeping up with the market is by far the biggest kind of strategic challenge I have. Obviously, we're looking at other competitors, but that's my main focus. If I can keep pace with the market, create a product that people actually want to use, and evolves with the times and with the new technologies, I think we'll be good.
Very nice. What is the legal structure of CoinDash and where is it incorporated?
So first of all, you can read about it in the terms and conditions. CoinDash is incorporated in Gibraltar. I don't know if it's a fairly new kind of framework, but Gibraltar is very, very, very open to blockchains. Not even open, but they're actively creating legal frameworks in order to make blockchain work in Gibraltar. And from meeting with the regulators and hearing them that, look, it's okay to be a blockchain company and we're welcome what you're doing and we'll try to help to, bank accounts and all of those things, which, it's an incredible difference than anywhere else in the world. So we actually chose Gibraltar because of that. I mean, it just makes our lives much easier, and I think it makes the company have much lower kind of operational risk just because you're operating in a friendly environment.
Yeah, we know that firsthand with banks. It's very hard to find an environment that is crypto-friendly, and as I mentioned, banking and having the general governmental support. It's hard.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you plan to increase the adoption of the CoinDash service/platform?
So again, it's all about the product. I mean, putting speculation aside, I'm sure there's, obviously people buying for investing and everything else. But if you want, and I think, along the 3 or 4 years of history of altcoins, or maybe a bit more, overwhelmingly, platforms who produced good products have returned much higher return rates for their investors. And I think Ethereum is one of the biggest kind of case in point. So that's our plan, dude. I mean, build a product people want to use, and I think that will increase the usage of the token, because the token is what's powering the whole kind of platform. Keeping one of our things we've decided early on is to keep communication and keep engagement with the community, even on a higher level after the ICO, than before the ICO. It's incredibly important. One of the things nobody's talking about, which is an incredible thing a company is getting from an ICO. Obviously, the money is one thing, but the second thing is that there's a lot of people invested in what you're doing on the most kind of immediate way. And specifically for CoinDash, those investors are also the end users, because we're developing platforms for investors. So that engagement is incredibly important. I mean, from creating groups of people that help us beta test or find bugs, which by the way we're already doing now, to people who are suggesting you new features and using your platform. So I mean, it's everything together. I mean, community, product, and obviously new projects we will be working on, new partnerships and all those things.
Do you have any new partnerships that you haven't announced and you want to take the opportunity to do it now?
We have a few. We're not trying to be secretive, but we have a few, and we'll start announcing them once we'll feel ready. They're interesting. Believe me, they're very interesting.
I believe. Okay, the next question is, what is the function of the CoinDash token?
So as I mentioned, so if you kind of describe this whole system, you'll end up with a system where people with experience and expertise are willing to share them with people who are inexperienced and all of those things. In return, those people will will have to pay fees because they're getting financial benefits from it. Those fees will be split between CoinDash and obviously the people who are being followed from the network, and those fees will be only paid with the CoinDash token. And so that's why I've said before that it's a big part of if you make that product people actually use, the value and the benefit people are getting from the usage of the token will increase as well. And so this is how we connect between the token and the product itself. And so those fees will be paid with a CoinDash token.
Do you plan to support fiat?
Not now. I mean, maybe in the future, not in the next 6 months, I think.
Okay, this is a question that I got like I think 6, 7 times now, and some people just would like a clarification regarding the GetGem connections. If you would be so
right. So first of all, this is probably one of the ugliest kind of sides of the blockchain community I've experienced. This thing was raised about, I guess, 2 months or month and a half ago by a bunch of racist kind of trolls in our Bitcoin Talk thread. And so we answered them once and didn't answer again just because the way they asked it, and they've replied many times in a very racist and offensive way. Not even for us. I mean, we're not taking it personally, but I mean, you know, kind of a conduct in a public place. And so I have to say this is one of the more ugly kind of sides of the industry. There's no connection to GetGems. I mean, GetGems was I don't know if anyone knows, but it was a blockchain company, raised $800,000, I think, 3 years ago, maybe more, developing an instant messenger with payments, with something like that, right? So I worked as a developer in GetGems like 4 or 5 months after they finished their ICO. I worked there for a while. I was an iOS developer. I gave my best to developing the product. I left, I think, like 7 or 8 months ago, maybe a bit more. There's no connection. They're not involved. There's nothing. I mean, some people got hurt because of their investment, and I mean, that's. I mean, you can ask. You can I'm open about it. You can ask me, but not in an offensive way. And hopefully that will bury it once and for all. I mean, there's no connection. I've worked there as a developer, and that's it.
So basically, it's just a employee-employer relationship.
Yeah, I mean, it's like saying that, I don't know, you got offended by Google, and then everyone who's ever worked in Google is now, trying to hunt you and scam you or whatever. I mean, I was just a developer there. Yeah, I mean, that's the basic kind of, yeah.
Yeah, well, I actually saw the thread that you were talking about on Bitcoin Talk, and that's not the way to raise a discussion. Certainly not. It's obviously offensive in general. There are ways to, even if you believe somebody to be dishonest, and you bring it up and you discuss it, and you hear them out, but not like that. So
I would have been happy to talk with the people directly. I mean, they even kind of direct messaged me a few times to kind of provoke me. But I mean, I won't talk with people trying to be so much offensive. I mean, if you want to ask a question, just ask a question. I won't I won't dismiss you just because of it. I don't mind talking about it. It's not like I'm very open about it. I was open there. I wrote directly there to everyone to see. People just feeling very confident when they're behind the keyboard and not in person. And as I said, there's
on the internet, nobody knows you're a dog.
Exactly. I mean, there's a lot of positive things in the blockchain community. This is not one of them. Definitely not one of them.
Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, on to the next question. Could you elaborate on the nature of the Anchors and RSK Rushes?
No. So with RSK, no.
Maybe Anchors, I'll give some details about Anchors.
Yeah, so RSK, no. In due time, we'll tell. We're just not feeling comfortable right now doing that. Anchors, yeah, Adam will be happy probably to talk about it.
Right. So Anchors obviously is a Chinese-based blockchain company. So most of the relationship over there is being dealt with by our China office, China team, which I'm in charge of. We're based in Shanghai. And essentially, one of our first investors and backers, supporters, advisors in the local market was Tony Tao, the CEO of Anchors. So he was a very, very important friend and a very, very important supporter in our growth in the local blockchain community. And right now we are gaining quite some traction in China. So it's one thing. Another thing that is going to be announced very soon, was already softly announced in the Unshares Neo rebranding event, but what they're going to do is they're going to issue a big fund, DAO-based fund with a different infrastructure, which we're not going to get into, which is called Nest. Now, in this project, we're probably going to have some cooperation in order to understand what kind of investments are the right investments for Nest future investors, and we might consider using data from CoinDash in order to create these different models and different investment ideas around their future investment vehicle. So it's being developed right now. It's not announced in China, but I'm more open about it for Western communities, because it's going to be probably announced in the next couple of months after we complete our ICO and everything is more stabilized on our side as well.
Awesome. I'm actually quite excited about partnerships, especially those types of partnerships.
Yep.
The next question is, how are you going to use the raised funds, or more correctly, how are the raised funds going to be used? And do you plan to hedge a portion of the funds?
So I'll start with the second question. Yeah, we will hedge some of the funds, obviously. It's not even hedging. I mean, you have to pay salaries in fiat, so it's not like you legally can pay in crypto yet. Hopefully in the future, yeah. The funds, I think it's like most of it will go to R&D. I mean, people and employees are the biggest expense for a company. And in that, engineering and everything has to do with engineering is probably the biggest cost. So yeah, I mean, developers, designers, product people, community is one of the things we'll continue working on. So yeah, this is the majority of the fund. Those will be probably the expenses. Yeah, I mean, it's like a normal startup. I think it's nothing different.
Development, operation, marketing, pretty much.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, again, like a normal company. There's no kind of difference there in that sense.
Okay. The next question is, in the upcoming crowdfunding, you will be selling 50% of the CoinDash tokens. Does this mean we can expect a second crowdfunding in the future?
So again, it's not like we know what the future will hold in that sense. But I mean, if you want to create a sustainable company, a company doesn't raise once funds and that's it. It doesn't happen. And so in the future, yeah, we probably will have to raise more funds. And part of that, part of the tokens left for the company will be used for that as well. How it will happen and when, obviously, we don't know. The amount we're trying to raise now is sufficient for us for the next few years, and so we'll focus on that. And once we'll start thinking about it, obviously we'll communicate with the community, as openly as we know how.
Thank you. Well, if you're not on the NDA, can you tell us who's the auditor or auditors of the CoinDash crowdfunding contract?
Yeah, so we have two auditors. I don't want to disclose them because we'll do a dedicated kind of post or dedicated announcement for that. We have two auditors independent of one another. One of them finished his auditing. No major bug, a few changes we need to do, but no major threats to the ICO contract. It's a pretty straightforward contract anyway. We're basing on that on the Open Zeppelin library, so most of that is already kind of a solid code people know and use. And so the first one finished. We did some tweaks they recommended. The second one will probably start today. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Well, here's one from YouTube. Could you explain why you raised the ICO cap?
So we have never announced the ICO cap before, I don't know, last Thursday. And so it's not like we've raised it. the way we decided about doing that is it's basically just kind of a calculation of how much years of runway you want the company to have, how much you're expecting to spend, and how aggressive you want to be. And obviously then you add some contingency to it and everything else. And so we want to be very aggressive. We want to have a runway of a few years. And so that's kind of where we ended up. On top of that, we added some, contingency and obviously there's always, because we are open for market fluctuations, because we won't convert, we'll leave some of the funds in fiat in crypto. So you need to consider that as well. Hopefully everything will go up, but if it doesn't, we don't want to be stuck and without any money. So this is essentially the way we calculate. There's nothing too fancy and smart about it. It's just a bunch of numbers. That's kind of the ballpark we ended up with. The amount of people contacting us was amazing, and so we wanted more people to come in as well. And so this is the kind of the way we decided about it.
Cool. Well, I don't have any more questions that have been sent to me at the moment. Stas, anybody sent you any questions?
Not that I think. Russian community was asking about that story with agents, but Alon pretty much explained it very well. They also wanted to know the token role, which was also explained very well, and we probably will, after the AMA, write this in Russian, make sure the message comes across. People are much like that. CoinDash have already something that I'm working on. It's a refreshing change from many ICOs today, which just
We actually have like hundreds of people registered and started using the product, which is extremely interesting. We're obviously they're raising bugs and everything, so we're trying to solve them as fast as we can.
Awesome. So people really like that you already have a working product. There are already community. It's something quite rare today, where companies raising hundreds of millions without any kind of user base and everything else, as we've seen last days. I must say that I have a test drive to CoinDash. I very like what I see. It's a very great system. It will improve our decision makers as people who jump on opportunities, who like opportunities, and this even before the power of the COVID rates came out.
Yeah.
So we are looking forward to see the system start actually in the production level.
We're with you on that, guys.
I did get one more question just now, and that's referring to an email blast that you guys sent regarding 200 whitelist emails. Could you expand on that? I won't make anything new other than the email. We will keep the people updated. The basic idea is very simple. I mean, we know the cap is fairly low. I don't know why people think it's low, but I mean, $12 million is not a small change. But people feel that they might not get into the cell itself. So what we said is that there's a bunch of people helped us from the very get-go. So as we said, we're working on this thing almost a year now. So there are people who joined us early on. And we want to give them opportunity to participate and make sure if they want to participate, they can. And so for those people who've been active for the past months, we will give an opportunity to participate and we'll make exactly how this will work known very soon. So this is kind of the basic idea behind that. Yeah. Cool. Actually, I think it's a very interesting approach. I understand where you're going with this, and I think it's very interesting and smart. I like it. Okay, so for everyone that doesn't know, the CoinDash forecasting is currently live on Wings. You can go to wings.ai and forecast the amount of funds that CoinDash is going to be raising. The current general sentiment at the moment is that you guys are going to reach the cap no matter what. So that's a good thing. Well, we have another question. If you guys have like 2 more minutes, what's in the pipeline for Wings and CoinDash cooperation?
What is, sorry, I missed the question?
What is on the pipeline for Wings CoinDash cooperation?
So I think we are in a, we haven't talked about it, but it's something that was running kind of in my mind. I think that, and by the way, this whole kind of forecasting is kind of a taste of it. I think that we all know that ICOs are potentially can change a lot of the things in the world. And so, but on the other hand, as we see more and more and more ICOs, it's getting much more complex to understand, you know, what to invest, how can you even filter out the good ones from the bad ones. And so I think on that kind of ground, we have a lot of things in common. We're good friends anyway, but I think there's a lot of kind of business interesting things we can do on that as well. I have a couple of ideas. I won't share it here, but I think there's, I think there, you know, the community will see a few things rolling out in the next months.
Yeah, I entirely agree with you. Okay, guys, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. If there are any other questions that you guys have and want to post, please post them on the Reddit. The CoinDash team are going to answer them there. You can also join the Telegram group. We'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. Thanks everyone for being here, and see you on the next AMA.
Thank you guys. Bye bye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Looking forward.
Thanks. Bye. Bye bye.